is a recording dated today, September 5th, 2018, with Glass Entertainment Group, Mr. Eric Newhouse and Mr. Brian Keller, his development assistant, for potential Noah's Ark documentary to be discussed in this first interview. This will be the audio recording and hopefully the video recording later. This is now more as follows for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. It is nearly 4 p.m. for Central Standard Time, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the interview will begin in approximately 1 minute or so. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Ronald.
Yes, I'm Ronald Stewart.
Hi, nice to meet you, Ron. I'm Brian.
Good to meet you. Almost in person.
Almost.
Yeah, almost.
Yes.
You have a nice holiday weekend?
Oh yeah, Labor Day.
Good,
Really
good,
nice.
wonderful,
Wonderful.
wonderful, good.
So are you on a laptop or a what are you using right now?
Well, I had to get another computer because of issues that I had with Skype before.
Right.
And I can't go into that because that honestly is national security issues.
Right. Right.
And so, you know, I'm not here to cause a problem or be a problem. I'm here just to try to do what needs to be done. But
absolutely.
You can understand that with me having that and coming into Skype and then listening to what we have to say,
right,
it's very disconcerting. But anyway, today what we're here for is to try to blend our talents and our capabilities together and help one another to make this documentary a success.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So do you think you could push the computer a little farther back from yourself?
Okay.
Or up the camera? Yeah, that's much.
How's that? That better?
That's a lot better.
Okay.
If you could look into the camera when you answer the questions.
Okay. All right.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
fine.
So I'm going to call. Actually, let me just brief you a little bit more. Yes, we'll be recording this, and as we talked about, it'll be for internal purposes only.
Yes.
It's helpful for us because we cut out our audio.
Yes.
When we ask you the questions, you Ron Stewart.
All right.
I am.
That's fine.
Just so we get a really clean cut.
Okay.
Of what the question is being asked.
Sure. I understand.
And other than that, it's pretty much just, want to showcase your personality and also your expertise. You obviously have a lot of years of experience dealing with Noah's Arks. We want to showcase that.
Well, I have a separate website, if you're interested, that gives my whole background all the way back to 1969. I've been an Ark researcher since I was 16 years old. And I had a person who was a TV personality in San Antonio, Texas. He had a TV show on KENS TV. He was my proctor professor. Anyway, the whole point is this, is that I've got a lot of years. I've seen a lot of things.
Right.
Here's the big thing right now, is that when it comes to looking for that, instead of putting the cart before the horse based on common sense and logic and expertise, put the science first as the horse, then the cart can come later when you are able to make a discreet, careful, low-keyed announcement. And the reason a low-keyed announcement is so that in case there is more to it, then it makes a bigger impact. So all we're looking for is to produce a truth. We're not here to put down any other group or cause a problem or be a problem. But they've been looking for the Ark for almost 100 years. There has not been one good photo. There has not been a scientific paper published on anything. A game change. So our motto in what we do, and we're hoping to do, humbly as possible, of course we make mistakes, and this may or may not be Noah's Ark, we don't know, but is to present the science first, then do the research, then present it like you were going to do in a documentary. However, in this day and time, people of your generation, you're smart and intelligent. Much, much more than my day. Baby boomers. So you have to give that generation the benefit of the doubt that they know more because of all the social media and everything else. Therefore, what we have here is a situation. You present the information like I had talked with Mr. Newhouse, and let the intelligent public make up their own mind.
Yeah. Let me just give Eric a call because he wanted to
All
say
right, that's fine.
Hey Eric, I'm all set up with Ron down here. Good. Okay. Okay, thanks.
So you're going to have to kind of guide me through this. I'm sorry, and sometimes if you cut out, I'm not trying to interrupt. It's just that your audio comes in a little late. So
yeah, we'll let you know if your audio cuts out, if we can repeat it or anything like that.
All right.
Could you just make sure? Could you sit back again? Just
yes.
With the lighting on your face.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's ideal. Like that.
Okay. All right. Then I'll sit right here against the wall. You got me now against the wall. Right. Well, my background is I have a THD, which basically is what they would award before a PhD in the late 60s, and it's in ancient religious history with an emphasis in archaeology. And then I have a PhD that is in theoretics in the arts, humanities, and what they used to call natural sciences. But now it's life sciences and also earth sciences, and that's what that's about. So my classification right now, I'm Vice President of Science with the Armanco Corporation. I'm semi-retired. I still consult for them, and I'm also head of their research and development, Vice President of that as well. So I still have an active part of that when they need me. I'm trying to retire, but I don't think you ever retire. That I also had I had a dual coursework in college, and I went to also Texas A&M, took additional work for about 18 years, and took many other courses in ancient construction and all kinds of things, and in engineering and whatever. So my background is very well diversified.
Hey, go ahead. Sorry, Eric is just coming in. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, he just got pulled for a meeting. We're having such a busy day. So I will just finish this up. Sorry, not finish this up, but I will conduct the interview myself. Can we get you saying just more concisely? So my name is Ronald Stewart. I have a PhD in so-and-so. I've been searching for the Ark since I was 20 years old.
Okay, that's fine. How do you do? My name is Ronald Stewart. I have a THD in ancient religious history and archaeology, and a PhD also in theoretics in the arts, humanities, and natural sciences, which is today life sciences and earth sciences as well.
Great. And can you talk about how long you've been looking into Noah's Ark?
Okay. I have actively been looking into Noah's Ark since I was approximately 16 years old, and now I am 67 years old. So that is a long, long time.
Absolutely. And could you talk about any sort of different places in the world, the different places you travel to search for Noah's Ark?
I have actually been an archaeologist, different types of expeditions to Noah's Ark. And I was one in 2003, which I went with my own team there, and we looked at for something in that area. And we were looking all the other places for a box-like ark. However, what we ran into scientifically is that there are plenty of geological natural anomalies on Greater Mount Ararat that have a rectangular shape. And well-meaning people can look at it and say, oh, that's Noah's Ark. But that's not necessarily true. The Bible, if you want to use that as a guide, does not state what the shape is. It just gives the measurements. Therefore, as long as it would be scripturally consistent, it could be just about any shape as far as the length and the width and the height. Now, the point is this. There have been witnesses that have testified that the ark is in certain places, condition, just like it was built. But that's not what Scripture says. Scripture states in Genesis 8:13, which I'm not trying to be preachy here, I'm just stating what the Bible states, but the last thing that Noah did was remove the roof from the ark in the upper animal stalls. It's what it translates from Paleo-Hebrew. So, if you ever seen a storm tear up a house roof, it doesn't look like it used to look before. It's all torn up in pieces and holes and everything in it. So that's how, according to Scripture, if that's what we're going to depend on, is how the ark should be looked for. And here's something else. A petrified ark does not look like wood today. You look at a petrified tree, it has a rough exterior, looks more like stone or rock. It may have the same outline, may still have bark, but it has a more stone-like appearance. Why Noah's Ark has not been found is because now it's mostly permineralized or petrified, or what they also like to refer to as being fossilized, and it looks much like the mountain itself, but is in the shape of what it looks like a constructed object. That would be enough to fool the best person in the world. And well-meaning people haven't found it, but we believe we have because it has the components of the story of Noah. Here's an example. How do we know that, how does a little child know that you're reading the story of Little Red Riding Hood? Well, there's Grandma, there's the wolf, she was on the steps of the cottage, there was a woodcutter. All these are denominators. So when you see Noah's Ark and you see picture writing images of a whole bunch of different kind of animals going in or either out, and an old man with a beard, and then 8 family members or 7 more, see, these are all denominators that only fit that story. Therefore, based on common sense and logic first, do you find...
About Mount Ararat.
All right. In being on Ararat, what we found is that at one time, before there was a volcanic explosion in 1840 AD CE, and a great earthquake, there used to be a gradually rising landmass that went all the way up from the bottom of Ararat that was a couple of miles long, and it went all the way up to the ark. However, when that explosion took place, it blew a hole in the side of the mountain, and it lost 1/5 of its entire mass and created a gorge called the Ahura Gorge. When that searing heat came out of that volcanic blast, it turned a lot of stuff and carbonized it. For example, there are animal carvings allegedly that are totally carbonized. There are wood beams that are totally carbonized, and the list goes on and on and on. But it's so dangerous because it's not only a hot spot for political ownership. Everybody wants to own the mountain because it's allegedly supposed to be the mountain of Noah. It's been going on as long as we've had trouble in the Middle East. There's been trouble with Mount Ararat and whoever wants to claim it. Mm-hmm. The only problem is right now, in the location where our object is at, it's very rare you get a chance to get there because you can be approved one day by the military, and the next day you'll have the Agri governor, the Iraq governor, say, no, I don't want you up there. And so you spend $1 million and you have nothing. So it's very hard in the political. Now, this is the only mountain in the world that has its own weather system, and people are not aware of that. You can be there and it can be sunshiny one minute, you get ready to take a picture, and then whoosh, here comes a 100-mile-an-hour wind and nearly blows you off the mountain, or you got to run into your tent and take cover for 24 hours because it can be snowing one minute and literally blow you off the mountain the next.
Yeah.
And then you have what they have, these terrorist groups. For example, in 2016, like the PKK, they were shooting mortars toward the top of the mountain, and you were having things explode here and there and here and there, and I mean, it's very scary. It really is.
Right. Absolutely. So can you talk about, I know confidentiality is important, as well as, so, say everything you're comfortable saying, but can you talk about sort of technology, modern technology that can be used to locate the Ark?
All right. One of the groups you're talking to, we won't mention the name here, due to the fact is that out of respect, in my agreement with you. But they were researching for the Ark in the east, what they call the east slope, or the east side of the mountain. And they had been doing that since about 2005 or 6 until 2013. They used satellite imagery, they used GPR, which is ground penetrating radar, and they used other types of technology like seismic, and they drilled down 60 feet, but they didn't find nothing, and the ones that made the NOAA film, Finding Noah. And what they came out with was still they're interested in the location, but the point is they basically came up with nothing in that area. Now, that said, the problem is this. Other art groups, and the difference between us and them is that there's they build big giant theme parks for Noah's Ark, and that's fine. But when you take in allegedly 50, 60, 70, 150, $200 million, and you still 10 or 15 years later haven't done the science, we don't understand that. We go to their site and everything else. A group that has invited anybody to come there and take a look at what we're showing. And that's the difference. And we want scholars, other archaeologists, geologists, any applicable interdisciplinary sciences that would be able to go there to have this kind of an influence and what could be found, because there's a tremendous amount of data there that needs to be studied.
Right. And how would you study that data?
Sir?
How would you study the data that you've accumulated? What more work needs to be done and involves you going back, right?
Well, here's the thing. It is a very difficult thing to connect the dots from the ancient world of possibly Noah down to our modern day. For example, if I had a camera right now and took a picture of you, two-dimensional photo, you would see you, and I'd see you there in the background with the earphones on and everything else. That's not the way people back then saw images. They didn't. The way they saw images is that, let's say, for example, where your head is north. Now, your shoulders are east and west, and the bottom of your body south. They would look at the image like this, but they had tremendous depth perception. And because they interconnected these images together, so that when you look at it this way, you're looking at one animal, but when you tilt your head this way, you're looking at another one. Now, but they did this in 360 degrees all the way around. So just by me telling you that, you can see the tremendous difference. So what we have to do, we first of all have to find out how many of these possible animals are there. And then there are smaller pictographs that tell the story of how Noah was supposed to have brought the animals onto the ark. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands of these in this area, in this object that we've been studying.
Great. So essentially, do you believe you found the Ark? Do you believe that you will confirm it? And if you can't confirm it, do you believe the Ark will eventually be found?
We believe that We're not saying it is. We're not saying it isn't.
Right.
But what we are saying, that that it's more than just chance or coincidence, because what we see over and over and over again are things that may have some type of lost historical and biblical or even archaeological aspect to it that we're completely not aware of yet, but it still certainly is the best candidate, we believe at this time, to possibly be the Ark's remains.
Right.
May I add briefly that,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No,
No, may I add briefly that in Live Science online peer-reviewed journal, it had an article back in 2014 that the reason scientists don't believe in Noah's Ark is because there has never been nothing found in the archaeological record that in writing that says it's there or shows it's there or proves it's there. However, that's in phonetic writing like letters and syllables and symbols. But if picture writing went out 1,000 years after allegedly the flood happened, and then phonetic writing in mixed systems came into being and that got lost, there's a whole world of picture writing archaeology out there that has now just been rediscovered. And that is what we think we may have found that may either prove or disprove Noah's Ark. And not only that, but in other biblical situations as well.
Right. Can you talk about, I know there's been several groups that have believed they found the Ark. There's the Chinese team and also Ron Wyatt's team. Can you talk about those findings, which many people believe, and
right.
Some people also believe to be frauds?
Right, I understand. Well, here's the point. They're entitled to their opinions, just like we are ours. However, I think the difference is that you have Ron Stan scientific geological cone eruptions. In other words, if there was an eruption coming up like this of lava from the ground, and lava was flowing around it, the blast is more powerful than the flow of the lava, therefore it has no choice but then to be like this and then separate, come around the more forceful blast and then regroup at the end. When it got hard, that formed these impressions. But these things are on all mountains around the world. Matter of fact, let me put it to you another way. Boxes, these rectangular shaped anomalies that can be mistaken for Noah's Ark, did you know that they're on just about every other mountain in the world as well, even under the ocean on submarine and underwater volcanoes? So see, this type of scientific research we have done, and we have hundreds of pieces of research that will show that the science will back up, basically, I believe, what we say.
Right. Can you speak to the declassified CIA documents that show that there may have been something of interest on Ararat that they were looking into?
The declassified documents that show Greater Mount Ararat and what is known as the Ararat anomaly.
Yes.
When you look at the Ararat anomaly, it is about 300 feet wide, and it has the same type of similar boat impression, just like what Ron Wyatt has. It's just larger, and the imagery we have, when you look at it close, it's just basically made out of rock, and it's another giant spatter cone eruption is what we found.
Right.
Now the other groups that that you talked about and you wanted to know about, like NAMI and so forth, there was a lot of controversy about them a few years ago, and they built this giant thing party in China. The only problem is that when their supposed wood was looked at, it was far too young to date back to the time of the flood, and that's been already looked at by a number of geologists. And it has, and there's I can supply you 100 different peer-reviewed references from other scientists that will show that that's just a geological formation is what it is.
Right. Okay. Great. So I guess near the end, I would say, why do you personally want to find the Ark?
Well, you have to understand, The gentleman I told you that was my proctor professor,
Right.
he was also my godfather. So he was a friend of the family, and of course, you know, I never really had a father when I was a child. So he pretty well was my father image. And you have to understand, he said, Ron, he said, I looked for it and I got over there twice. He said, but someday you grow up. He said, if I can interest you in it, maybe you'll find it. Now, I'm not doing this as a promise to him, but he got me hooked on it. So it would be nice to contribute something to the world. You know, there's people who have to be pioneers, and they have to look into subjects in order to establish a road so that other people can follow to see if such is so. But here's the point. We all want to leave some mark on the world. My mark, if I can do anything with my capabilities, my background, whatever I can do to help the world and help your generation, I think every older generation has an obligation to help the younger ones.
Awesome. Is there anything else you feel like you wanted to add that I didn't ask you about?
Well, I believe that we certainly want to present the truth.
Yes.
And the way you present the truth is by trying to research all the facts from A to Z. It's like this. You seem like a highly intelligent young man, and when you went to college, and if your professor told you, now you've got to read this book to get a grade so you get your degree because you're now in your final year of your master's degree, would you go see the movie or the documentary? Or would you read the book from A to Z, from page 1 to 300, to get the full perspective, 360 degrees of what is? Because if you didn't, he said you failed, you wouldn't get your degree. So, in like manner, may I make it, stress it very much and emphasize that it's important to look at all facts, pro and con, A to Z, and then let the evidence present itself. In other words, where the evidence is concerned, whoever has the biggest stick, as far as the evidence is concerned, might win.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Ron, we're going to get on with Alan pretty soon and conduct a similar interview.
All right.
But I just want to thank you so much for taking the time, for downloading Skype, for everything like that.
Yes.
This has been really useful, and I hope, like I said, we're very early in the stages. We're not sure if this is going to get made, but we're really hoping that interviews like yours contribute to perhaps it's getting made. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too, sir.
Okay, goodbye.